How that last one feel?
Good. It's just nice to get out there, move around, get a couple first ones out of the way, get some ground balls, and just get on your feet again.
It's nothing like setting expectations with a bar high for everybody. It's home run your first spring training game.
Yeah, it is what it is. It was just fun to kind of be out there.
And you were obviously rusty because you had to figure out. I'll just tag the third base coach also.
Huh?
You figured out you had to tag the third base coach also on that rundown.
Yeah, I just try to tag everybody, trying to get one.
Sure.
That's right. Doesn't
Early
matter.
spring.
Whoever's there, tag them,
Corey, what did it feel like to just get out there? I mean, I know you said it's good to move around, but you and Marcus are starting to work together, and just to be out there for a couple innings together, does it feel real?
Yeah, it's exciting. We got to get out there and play and just kind of figure out everybody. You got to learn what people can do, what they can't do, and make up anything in between. So it's nice to just kind of move around, get to know how he moves and how everybody moves, and just play again. It's fun to just play again.
Woody said you wanted to play every day, pretty much. So what are you going to do? How are you going to ramp up at bats, I guess?
Yeah, I believe you got to get out there as much as you can, especially when it's a short period. It doesn't always have to be 9 innings, but just kind of getting up and moving and learning how to get loose for a Major League Baseball game every day. I think it's important. So it'll be a constant dialogue on how I'm feeling and where I can go and stuff like that. But, yeah, I believe you got to kind of get going.
Are you planning to play tomorrow?
No, tomorrow's off. I think the first 2 they wanted me to kind of go every other one. So, but after that, let's see where it goes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I love the game. I love the game. It's what we do. It's a blessing to be out there and play at this level. It's good to see the other guys on the other side too. Just kind of catch up with them, and we talked on union calls and things like that. But when you see each other in uniform, it just feels so much better. So really nice to get out there.
I feel like when we talked to you the other day, it was like so union heavy, but how have these first few days in camp been with all these your new teammates?
Yeah, still new guys coming in too. Initially signing here, it's like a very young team, and they're starting to fill in, some veteran leadership, and it's a good mix now. I think the young guys are kind of understanding that this is what the culture is going to be now. Forget about last year. Put your head down, get to work, and see where we are.
And kind of a tone setter, like Evan said, there with Corey on the first day. He walks in a 3-run home run, huh?
Yeah, I mean he keeps it simple. If he gets his pitch where he's looking, he takes great swings. He's got a beautiful swing, and good to see him do some damage there.
Hey, just along the lines of, like, I know you were going to get labor questions that first day, right? And we asked a lot of them. But does it now feel almost like a relief to actually just play and not have to deal with that anymore?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're not labor lawyers. We're baseball players, but even during the year last year, we were having calls. So I mean, it's just we get to focus on what we love to do. We get to play big league baseball and have fun with it. So can't beat that.
Okay. What's the purpose of pitching Jack Leiter?
I don't think there's a purpose. I think it's just we needed an inning or two. So, I mean, it's kind of cool. I got to see his first outing was first professional outing was not too long ago out on the main field, and now we get to see his first, in a major league, spring training game. Listen, none of our pitchers are quite ready. The only guys that are ready are the guys that have been here. So, we knew we needed arms from the minor league side, and it happened to fall on his day. So I don't think it was like intentional. I think it's just kind of lined up that way.
But you also know that all of us are going to now be like laser focused on Jack Leiter, right?
As you should be. I mean, we obviously drafted this guy with the second overall pick, so it's like there's a lot of hype. He's got a long way to go. I'm excited to see him pitch. I'm excited for all of our guys. But, obviously Jack's a guy we, believe in. We feel like he can be, a frontline starter sometime soon, and this is the beginning.
You want to see him face Bobby Witt Jr. again?
Yeah. We'll see if he doesn't throw him a first pitch curveball. I'd like him to challenge him with the heater, but we'll see.
What were your? I'm Zach Buchanan. I go to Prospects
Hey,
Athletic. But what were your first impressions of him the other day when you were throwing on the back?
He was excited. It was good to see him. I've obviously seen a lot of his bullpens and just watched, in the lab, and it's the first time he's actually, faced real competition. So that was kind of cool. But talking to him after, he was a little excited. He said he was a little bit erratic, and he's a little bit of a perfectionist, so he didn't feel like it went all that great. But I thought ball was coming out of his hand good. Upper 90s fastball. It's pretty impressive. But he's always trying to get better, and which is cool to hear.
I know a lot of people talk about kind of the movement on that fastball. It stays above barrels, and is that something that stands out to you at all?
Yeah, he's got some unique characteristics. Obviously, he's kind of a lower release guy. He's not 6'4". He kind of throws from down here, and it's even if the spin rate and some of the other the vertical movement, it doesn't blow you out of the water, but I think it's just the way he releases the baseball. It's really hard to hit when he gets in the right spot, and obviously the high velo helps that. So he's got a lot of unique characteristics, and he's got to get that breaking ball. He's been working on the changeup, trying to make sure it comes out of the same slot. But like I said, there's a lot of growth and development that still needs to happen. But he's pretty good.
What is that? The growth and development, are there tangible things that you guys have pointed to, like for this camp that you want to, or not just this camp, but right now, like focus on?
Yeah, I think as an organization, there's some goals that we want to see with him. He's very aware of them. Obviously the fastball command and the ability to land the breaking balls, being able to use that changeup at times to get people off his fastball. Also, like aligning the slots, making sure, because some guys, it seems like the breaking ball kind of pops out of his hand. It's trying to get that thing a little bit this way instead of coming out that way. So just a lot of little things he's working on. But the competitor he's fierce out there. He wants to win. He wants to beat everybody he goes up against, and he's got like a quiet, calm, humble, confidence about him, which I love. But when he's on the mound, man, he's a competitor.
A different pitching prospect, but Ricky Vanasco was kind of in a very unique situation with the lockout because he had TJ, and then he was added to the 40-man to avoid the Rule 5. That's not even happening anymore. What have you seen from him in his first few weeks, and coming back from that surgery?
Obviously, yeah, I think the lockout hurt him probably more than anybody. Not hurt him, but just it didn't allow us to kind of like put our arms around him. Anybody that's in rehab, those are the only guys that I was really frustrated about because they needed our help. They needed, with Leclerc and Hernandez and some of those guys, we could communicate with who they were working with, but we couldn't personally reach out. And, Ricky kind of, I wouldn't say it set him back a couple weeks, but it just didn't allow us to him to be in the same path that some of these guys on the minor league side are, it is what it is. But, yesterday he threw. I thought it was coming out good. He was, obviously he's got elite stuff. His fastball can get in the upper 90s. He's got, a really good breaking ball. He's got, competitive makeup. So I'm excited about it, but we got to obviously take our time with that and make sure he hasn't pitched above A ball. So we got to get this guy some innings, get him out there, getting him, to perform. Honestly, that's the biggest thing right now is just making sure he's in line to get out and do his thing.
Looking at the catcher situation you've mentioned, to preserve Mitch's health, the possibility of DHing and playing first base every now and then. But it doesn't seem like you're, is it a fair assumption to say you're not seriously entertaining 3 catchers?
Not at the moment. It's something we may consider. I think it depends on Mitch's health at the end of camp. If he's fine and good to go and there's no issues, then probably not. We'd rather probably have a utility type player who's versatile, who can kind of do multiple things and allows us to kind of, in multiple positions, have some versatility. I think we'd be more interested in that. But if there is some issues there, then we could entertain the thought for sure.
So naturally the question though goes to Jose and Jonah. You know, they both have their strengths. They're both really good receivers behind the plate. What are you trying what are you trying to get from them or push them to do?
I think both have to improve offensively. You know, I think we trust. Obviously, Jonah's probably got a little bit better arm strength, but you know, from a catching standpoint, they both have their strengths that kind of, I would say, you know, cancel each other out. But on the catching side, you know, Trevino's an unbelievable leader, which Jonah's gotten a lot better at. Very good game callers. Mm-hmm. They put a ton of work in. They both, you know, great receivers. Like I said, Jonah's arm strength's a little bit better, but both are decent blockers. So catching is kind of par on par, but like the offensive side, it's like who's going to take the next step offensively. I think that's probably where my head's at. Who can, you know, be that backup catcher that can come in and actually provide us some good production in that spot. So I'm not saying the guy who hits the best is going to win it, but that's where the difference might lie when it comes time to it.
You know, Solak's a big journaler, right? He takes notes. So how would he have summed up 2021 in his journal?
Probably should ask him.
I'm asking you how you would sum it up.
Listen, I mean, I'd say from starting from 20, you know, this kid's he's gotten a chance to play pretty much every day, different roles. You know, since 19, he came up and, you know, did really well his first year. Had to make some adjustments the last couple of years. Last year, got stuck, you know, where I felt like he was having trouble just being free out there. And that's obviously the one thing that we try to get our guys to be is free. And, you know, he just could not do it. He's a competitor. So, I mean, this guy plays and grinds harder than anybody we have. And that's what we love about him. But at the same time, I think that got in the way a little bit from him just saying, okay, screw what happens. I just got to go out and let my swing play out. And, you know, when fortunately I had to make the decision to send him down, I think that kind of opened his eyes and said, okay, I gotta just play the game. I got to enjoy the game. That was one thing. Man, you don't smile on the field very much. You know, I know he's struggling, but I think as a player, you still have to embrace the difficulty, like in a similar way. And it's miserable sometimes when things aren't going your way and you can't quite figure out why. So I think that's where his head was at, and AAA kind of freed him up to just say, okay, you know what? If I get 3 hits today, I get 3 hits today. If I don't, I don't. And you could see the release, and all of a sudden he came back and he was better. You know, when he came back. But as far as summing it up, you know, I think there was a lot of growth. There's a lot of learning on his part about who he is, how to handle failure, how to deal with the big leagues. So I was proud of him. He finished strong, came back, never stopped fighting, which I don't expect him to ever stop fighting because that's just who he is. But I think he's a little bit renewed spirit, and maybe this year won't have as much at-bat opportunity, you know, with the roster we have. But at the same time, you know, he has a chance to play a pivotal role for us, you know, on a much better team.
You know, in talking with people, and this is going back to last year, right? I think last spring there were some troubling signs that showed up. He was missing some fastballs. In hindsight, did you see that, and did that concern you at all?
A little bit. I think we're always kind of trying to put our finger on what may come or what is coming when the league starts to adjust to you and when they start pitching them a certain way. If there's some small red flags that start to get a little bit bigger and bigger as time goes on and teams start realizing, okay, he has a hard time hitting this off of this, they're going to keep exposing that. And I think that exposure just gets bigger and bigger as a player unless you make the adjustment.
Was it just fastballs, or was it fastballs in this particular location?
I think it was just a mixture of fastballs with the breaking balls. I don't think it was just a fastball. If you told him a fastball was coming, he would hammer it. It was the fact that they were throwing him breaking balls, you know, down and away, and he was having trouble getting those in the air and hitting those. He was pounding the balls in the ground, and then put him a little late on the fastball. So all year I felt like he was in between, where before it was like he could stay on the heater but adjust to some breaking balls. But they didn't expose him with the breaking balls before.
All right, so at the same time, right, if there were some troubling spots that showed up on the field, were there any red flags in your mind last spring about the lack of freedom or being a little bit tight? Did you see any of that?
A little bit, but I wouldn't say it was like a huge red flag. I think it's just the expectations for younger players when they come into camp for the first time. If they have expectations, he goes into camp, battling for a starting job to get consistent at bats, basically saying, okay, this is your job to lose. Like it's tough for the first time that happens. The first time you get called at the big leagues, it's almost like you're playing with house money the whole year. There's really no expectations unless you're a highly touted prospect and you're already landing on the big leagues with like massive expectations. But for him, it was just like, hey, I'm going to get my feet wet. I'm just going to hit. I'm just going to do my thing. Every hit he got after the first one was just kind of a bonus. But when you go into the season thinking, okay, I got to do this, and there's like a bar set, and you fall short of that bar at any point, you start to panic a little bit as a younger player, and that's on us to kind of help him through that. But sometimes you just got to go through it. I mean, we've seen it over and over again with guys, and Marcus Semien might be a good guy to talk to about that. He's been through that.
I think Marcus Semien would be a good guy to talk to about just about everything.
Yes, I would encourage him. I encourage all of our players to talk to him.
Actually, kind of speaking of that, I talked to Nate this morning, and his locker is like right next to Marcus, and Marcus was a guy who said that he had to adjust to higher velocity fastballs up in the zone. That's something that Nate had to work on last year. What are you guys trying to do in order to? Is that the last piece of the puzzle for him to really hit that next level?
I think so. I think it's not just how he hits the fastball, but it's to be able to hit the fastball while not losing his ability to check off the breaking balls. Sometimes we try to create a solution for one problem and we create more problems in the process. If you ask Adolis to be a little bit more patient, not the right approach, because then he's going to lose all of his ability to impact the baseball, and he's going to, Danny Santana, we saw that with a little bit when we had him. Free swinger, I think the best way to kind of for low is to be able to, hey, there's some swing changes he made, there's some subtle adjustments he made with his swing and his ability to get to the fastball. That's going to allow him to still check off the breaking ball or ride out the breaking ball, which he does a ton of damage on when it's down in the zone and over the middle of the plate. So that's the biggest key for me with him. It's like I don't want to take away a strength of yours, which is controlling the zone and being able to hammer off-speed pitches in the air. He's just got to be able to get to that fastball a little bit easier. And I feel like with the changes that I've seen so far, he will be able to do that. Now it's a matter of going out and doing it.
What do you make of